Hey guys, welcome back to Sad Dad. My name's Dave Apkarian. I'm a comedian out of Fresno, California, and this is a podcast where I sit down with my funny friends, my fellow comedians, and we talk dads. That's what we're doing here today. Hi, how are you guys? I missed you. It's late Wednesday night. I just got home from a show a little bit ago. I headlined my first show. Me. I was the headliner. I run all these shows, and I need to learn how to do longer sets, and so I decided to do one myself, and it went about as well as I expected. I'm proud of myself for standing and delivering. 25 minutes is not anything I'd ever done before. I mean, I had the material, but doing all of my material in one go wasn't all of it, I guess, but it felt good. It felt really, really good. I was real nervous going into it. I mean, objectively, the show was awful. It's this little bar show, this dive bar show that we do on Wednesdays that we put on, and the audience consisted of all of 4 patrons who sat at the bar with their backs to me and all the comedians watching a game. The worst part was the game was on the NFL channel. It was a rerun. It wasn't anything. It was some Philadelphia Eagles game. And so they watched that while we told jokes, and the rest of the audience was like 6 comedians that have all heard my material a million times, but still felt good. I was still proud of myself for getting through it. And I have this closing bit right now that's landing really hard. It landed hard even in that room, so I'm real excited about that. And that was a bit, ironically, that was started or inspired by my guest today, Ramsey Badawi. Ramsey is a real funny comic out of Southern California, out of LA, and he and I have a killer talk. Ramsey's somebody I really, really look up to in comedy. He came over, he was in town, he very graciously agreed to do the podcast with me. We sat down, we talked, it was awesome, and then I hit stop, and to my horror, I realized that it only recorded my microphone. Yeah. I was like scared to tell Ramsey about it. I did eventually, and he was so nice about it. Ramsey gets podcasts and he understands things happen. And I've spent the last 2.5 weeks working on the audio for this, basically taking the volume, and because you can still hear Ramsey on my microphone, but he's like across the table from me. And so basically boosting the audio when he's talking so you can hear him, and lowering the audio when I'm talking. So it's a little bit jarring, and I'm sorry. The audio on this one, just the audio quality is not great, but the subject matter is awesome. So if you guys can just soldier through it, I promise it'll be worth the journey. I've been trying to think about, because it's, I before we hit record, I triple checked everything. I'm always good about that. And afterwards, when I realized it didn't work, I checked everything again, and everything was fine. I don't know. I just need something to blame. What I've landed on, what I'm blaming is entropy, the eventual heat death of the universe. That's what I'm blaming on this episode. Why the audio is so bad? Because I just need something. Okay. So that's it, guys. We're going to jump right into it right now. Please, again, I'm sorry about the audio. Just stick through it. It's going to be worth it. Ramsey and I had talked about redoing it. Me coming in with talking points based on this talk you're about to hear. And there was so much magic to this episode. If we tried to recreate it, it felt like it'd be so forced. And so we're just doing it. We're just releasing it. So sit tight, guys. Enjoy it. And I will catch you on the flip side of this thing. And is that how they do Mean Boys too, or do they go into?
We go direct on to a computer because we have it's like a mixer, kind of like this. It's relatively cheap. It's really good. It sounds good. It works well, and it was like $200 bucks.
Yeah, I could just do that
on Amazon, but
I just need to do it. But the one I have my own is like $500. So I just need to find like $500 somewhere.
Get that $500, write that shit off on your taxes next year. Oh, yeah, I write off every mic purchase, you just write them off. You're a comedian.
Yeah, I mean that is what I do. I just think it's neat you file taxes.
Oh, dude, I'm the only mean boy with an income.
You have to. How does that work too? Because you got a real job and you're also an independent contractor as a comedian. So, is that how it works? Or is that how you file?
Yeah. So I spent the last 3 years losing money in the eyes of the IRS under the comedy game.
Oh.
So it's they're like. But now because the way it works is you get to lose money on an independent endeavor for 3 years.
Oh, okay.
And then you have to report on your fourth year. They're like, look, if you're not making money, it's a hobby.
Yeah, right.
The IRS is just like our fucking dads. Just being like, look, get your shit together.
Just call it. Well, that's good.
Yeah,
that's good to know. I started recording you.
Take it, we can start off with some nice. I feel like we just segued into dad talk.
Yeah, sorta. Yeah. I was actually down in last month, like the end of last month. No, end of March. I was down in Orange County doing shows, and that's where you started, right? Is that?
That's the motherboard, dude. I love it so much.
You and I did a show together, but I was with Matt Colm. He took me to an open mic there. Is it a coffee shop?
Max Bloom's Cafe, probably in Fullerton.
Yeah. That was kind of fun.
It's my stuff. It's one of those open mics where it's not fun for anybody unless you started there. I'm sure you guys. There's a version of that around here, right?
Yeah.
This is a great mic, but you have to know everybody.
Well, that was how Grog's used to be.
Yeah, Grog's was just like I had gone to Grog's and I did the show, but I saw the mic and I kind of saw the moving pieces. And this is where the guys who all started here and who are all kind of better. Flex on some of the new nerds.
Yeah, that was a lot of it. It was real cliquey too, and it wasn't always the most welcoming environment. Yeah. And that was a big thing when I took it over. I was like, I really want to make this fun and accessible for new people. You do
a great job of that.
Oh, thank you, man.
And Danny are so nice up here to people who probably don't deserve it. Just new open mic people can sometimes be like, what's going on?
Yeah.
I've been here for 4 hours. You need to put me up. And it's like, dude, you got to understand. There are people here who are nationally touring comedians. There are people here who've been in the scene for 6 years.
Right.
It's a meritocracy.
Yeah.
So
that's how it goes.
You guys are great.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. So you went to Max Bloom's.
Yes, I did. And I ended up going up there. And I did okay because they hadn't seen me before. Yes. You know what I mean? They were like, and they're like, oh yeah. So I got a few laughs. That was fun.
Yeah.
Had a good time there. And there was another question I had for you, and I'm just blanking on this is that's just a terrible way to interview anybody. I am awful at this. But you started in Orange County, and did you grow up? Were you a comedy nerd? Were you like?
Yeah, no, I didn't even know that comedy nerd was a thing. I started the first time. It wasn't even the first time. We didn't have cable. This is an American poverty story. Listeners. If you have piano music or some sad violin, you could just work in at the end right here.
Yeah, I can do that. I can edit some shit in.
No, we were not. It's not even that we were super poor. It's just my dad my dad, who was the decision maker in terms of finances, was very much like, hey, we only get what we need to survive, and then everything else is saved. Which is, by the way, a great way to live life.
Sure, yeah, why not?
If only everybody lived life like that. You would. I wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here. Your dad would be here because that's what he does.
Right.
So We never had cable. We never had anything. So I remember we finally one time, just like after years of begging, we got cable. And then I stayed home sick, and I saw Tom Papa's Comedy Central half hour.
I love Tom Papa, dude.
Tom Papa's so great.
Yeah.
He means so much to me for this reason. I then, at that point, realized I was maybe in the 8th grade or 9th grade that, oh shit, you don't have to be Chris Rock. Because you have that idea.
Right.
Before the internet, remember, we only got to see comics. You only got to see the top 1% of comedians.
That's true. Like, it was a lot of, like Def Jam and Jerry Seinfeld.
Exactly. All these people, you were like, this is the best, So when I saw Tom Papa, by the way, I thought about this so many times, like how insulted he would be if I were to just pay him this compliment, to be like, hey, I realized after watching you that you don't have to be famous to be a comedian. You don't have to be super rich or successful.
That's so funny. Yeah, because I always, when I started, I was like, if I had like 2 goalposts that I was like trying to shoot for, like, right in between, it was I wanted to be somewhere between like Tom Papa and Hannibal Buress, and
exactly. These are great goals to have. I would take their careers or in between, or I would take 10 steps below both of them.
Yeah, totally.
But I remember I saw that and I realized, oh shit, comedy is not just late night. It's not this. So I immediately began consuming a ton of comedy and never accepted that I could be a comedian. It didn't even come into my brain.
Yeah, right.
So then I was playing in bands at that time. So I continued to play music between up until I was 22, just bands, all that stuff. Then podcasting became a thing, and I started listening to all these different podcasts and finding out, oh, shit, like people, you know what, I missed a very crucial part of the story. Okay, so I started playing in bands. I'm 19, and then I finally decide, I'm going to try comedy. I'm going to give it a try. This is the critical part of the story. I do an open mic. It's actually a comedy contest.
Oh, geez.
It's one of these horrible things where they go like, it's a comedy competition. Invite all your friends to come.
Oh, jeez. Oh, no. All your friends were there when the first time you did comedy?
Because I didn't.
Yeah. You wouldn't know. Yeah.
I was 19. I was an idiot. I was just like, well, these guys have all supported my music career. They should support my comedy.
Yeah.
I didn't understand the hustle either. I didn't understand that people were like, oh, yeah, like, we want you to bring 10 people so we can make $50 off of you. So I invite all my friends. It's at a bowling alley, and which is a place many comedians perform, and I always say is the most demoralizing place to perform because there's no feeling quite like hearing somebody get a strike while you bomb simultaneously.
The dichotomy of that situation.
Juxtaposition of one man's high and one man's low.
That's amazing.
It's really dreadful.
That is hilarious. And so like you were going real hard in music.
Yeah.
And then what was the point that you were like, oh no, it's not music, it's comedy.
So I did the show. I do the show.
Oh, sure.
I invite everybody. I bomb do you know there's something funny that happens to comics that I don't hear a lot of us talk about. Maybe it's just me. You ever bomb so hard that your body secretes a weird smell?
Oh man, it's like a shameful smell.
Yeah, it's like you get you get BO, but it's not the same BO.
Yeah, it's like this really hot sweat, and
yes, I'm very confident that your brain, this is a evolutionary trait where we're like, oh yeah, like you're in real danger right now.
Maybe it's some weird beta Musk, like if you're being challenged by the alpha and you need to like let the alpha know that you're not.
I totally think it's that.
And it's like, okay, you win, buddy. And
I totally think it's some version of it. It happens to me. I don't know if it happens to other people, but I'm like, it's got to.
Yeah.
It's like a human thing.
There's just this,
It's
I feel it in my pits and then right down my back, and I'm like, that's weird.
In a way that you don't like. That's why when people go, "You stink," I really think this is weird. There's like this. It's a different kind of BS. So anyways, I bombed this hard. I'm like, dude, I remember. I still think about some of the jokes that I had were so fucking bad. Here's the joke that I had. I remember it wasn't even Jesus Christ.
Oh, good.
Okay, first joke. I go.
You remember your first joke?
You
Good for you.
You remember MTV True Life?
Oh no, I don't remember it at all.
True Life was a thing where they would follow somebody who did something, and it'd be like MTV True Life, like I'm a hoarder, and it would like.
Oh yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
There was an episode called MTV True Life. I do gay porn.
Wow. Okay.
I followed some gay porn stars, or gay porn actors. I don't know if they're stars yet, but one guy was like, "Oh yeah, like I'm straight. I'm 100% straight, but I just do this for money." And so my bit, oh Jesus Christ, this is so embarrassing. My bit was I was 19 and I never heard of comedy before, so please forgive me. I go, listen, hey, this MTV show, this guy says, hey, because he said this analogy, he goes, look, man, just because you go home, just because you flip burgers at work, doesn't mean when you go home, you flip burgers. And so I go, hey, but if you're flipping burgers at work and then you go home and you suck dick, you're gay. Like, so I can't even. I probably made it like somehow funny.
Yeah.
It was
maybe
like your year one first joke.
Yeah. Ever. And it's a dick joke, and it's just
gay.
Like
and gay
and it just like checks all the like brand new comic boxes.
All the brand new boxes except for sometimes brand new comics have a funny joke. That one was just like a sentence that was weird.
Yeah.
So I ball my dick off. I get off stage and I go, okay, comedy's not for me. That's somebody else's game. I'm gonna keep doing music. I hit this point. I joined this band called This Wild Life. Very famous band now. They're huge now. They became very famous the second I left. I was in the band and I just go, I'm tired of this. I don't really want to do this anymore because I just sort of, I kind of got into this weird zone. I had a girlfriend who was a real Republican, and she was kind of like getting in my ear a little bit.
Oh, how crazy!
Yeah, she was kind of like, you're smart. You should do other things. And one of the things that I loved was I loved Daily Show with Jon Stewart.
Yeah.
So I loved that, and I thought, I love politics. So I'm gonna get into politics.
Yeah.
So I quit that band and started kind of pursuing a career in politics. Couple years into politics, I realized I hate politics.
Yeah.
I can't
How do you like just start a career in politics? Like, where do you even begin? I guess.
So my girlfriend at the time was the daughter of Orange County Republican royalty.
Okay.
She was like a delegate for John McCain.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I had been in this weird place where I was starting to go like kind of Republican because I was in college at the time and I wanted to rebel against all the college kids.
Wow, yeah.
It's a weird ultimate punk rock move.
Yeah. I get that. Like, I always say, like my younger brother, he passed away a few years ago, but I always said that he would have definitely voted Trump.
Yeah.
Because that was his attitude. Not because he liked Trump.
Just to fuck you.
Exactly. It was a fuck you to everybody because that was just how rebellious he was.
And that's where I was at. I was very much like I was surrounded by all these kids who were like, we're all liberals and Republicans are the worst.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck you guys. I'm wearing a tie. I hate all of it. So like,
yeah.
I was this prude, young man with a newspaper tucked in between his arms.
Sure. Yeah. Do you feel like? I mean, was there any of it that you felt like? I don't know. Like, did the fact that you're Muslim come into play? Like with that? I mean, like
I was a very self-hating Muslim.
Were you
for a real long time? I kind of think it did. I think there was this part of me that was like, you know what? I think some of these Republicans are right. I think these Muslims are fucking.
Yeah.
That shit crazy. And you know what? I get it. Like it was this weird. I was very self-hating, and I never explicitly thought that, but I do think that on a subconscious level, there was some part of me that was like, fuck it. Like, they're right. I think.
Sure.
So I do this. I start dating this girl. She's a delegate for John McCain in the 2008 election.
Wow.
She's her parents are super well connected. I decide, okay, I'm going to go for politics. That's something I'm into. I like it. I've always liked politics. You're Arab. If you're Arab, you just grow up. I don't know. Armenia similarly, maybe you guys have some sort of a political. Even if it's not, you talk about things because the genocide was in itself a political thing, an attack on who you people were.
Yeah, you know, I mean, there's this weird shift that's happened with the third generation. You know, like my grandparents were diehard, Democrats. They were like John Kennedy, and you know, I mean, that was her jam. She really liked Bill Clinton too. My grandma when she was alive. But now that like this late second, third generation is a little bit more conservative. You know, and
the money gets into the hands.
Yeah.
It's not bad. Look, my feeling with conservatism is I don't ever think it's inherently bad.
Sure.
I think I get. You're out of your fucking mind if you're somebody who's like, I think they're all wrong about everything. You're out of your mind.
Yeah.
And so I see that. I see people, you know, your family's here, third generation, maybe they've had a little success while they're here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and you know, they especially, I mean, I don't know if this is a story I've told on the podcast before, but like, I mean, they worked hard. Like my grandparents worked really hard.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I mean, like this, like I just showed you around this property. Like when my grandparents bought this, it was a swamp.
Sure.
And like I have no idea how you turn a swamp into a vineyard and what all goes into that.
It's amazing.
I don't think I have it in me. Skipped a couple generations.
I tell you right now, you have none of it in you.
Absolutely. And so
neither of us do.
And I guess I could see, you know, coming from that, and you've accumulated some wealth, you'd probably want to hang on to it.
Not just even want to hang on to it, but there's another part of it that I do think has some validity, which is, listen, man, we fucking pulled our shit up.
Yeah.
We figured it out. We came here. This place was awesome. We were able to go from, and there's another part of it too, which is if you come from. I come from Palestine, huge government, big control, no power, nothing like that. You come here and you go like, listen, man, this place is amazing. No idea that how great this like government is.
Yeah, right.
How much opportunity you have. You don't want this to be Russia. Trust me.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Right.
So I understand that.
Yeah, I get that too. I think where I usually get a little bit hung up with some Armenians in their politics usually comes in with immigration.
Sure.
Yeah, and they can be real anti-immigration.
Go right behind
And I don't understand that attitude, and it does bum me out. But
totally.
yeah,
and that's the thing is I can't to this day I would never call I can't call myself a Republican, and I know that we're straying off, but I promise.
No, it's okay. Usually the first 20-30 minutes we just bullshit. Yeah. So yeah,
I can't call myself a Republican. I absolutely can't call myself a liberal. I think there are some things where you're like, look, man, immigration is a clear net positive for society.
Yeah.
And then, and you look at the side on the liberal side and you go, listen, trust me, like big government doing everything for you is bad.
Yeah.
Welfare is good for people who need it, but I know I live with 3 people who get welfare and don't fucking need it.
Yeah.
Don't need it at all, and it's hobbled them completely.
Yeah, right.
They,
I was hanging out with Mitch Burrow last week, and I did an episode with him too, and that's sort of where he's at. Like he's almost kind of on the maybe on the slightly in the middle to the right of you, and he's like same thing. He's like I want a small government. But I also want, he's like, I'm pro-choice, and I really like guns, but there's usually like these 1 or 2 issues that if you are pro this one, if you're pro-gun, you're automatically to the right, and if you want to own a gun.
Yeah, if you criticize this, you're that, like, I'm for me personally, I don't own a gun, I don't want anything to do with a gun, I'm pro, like, you want to make it harder for the guns to get in hands of kids, whatever you got to do. I think if the Democrats were to pass every single piece of gun legislation they wanted, I don't think it fixes our problem that we have. I think we have a moral problem, which is
interesting.
There is some reason why these children are flipping a switch in their brain and wanting to fire up and light up a school.
Yeah.
And so my feeling is like, look, that's why I'm kind of like, look, I kind of stand behind the Second Amendment. I understand its purpose, but I also I don't think you're going to fix the problem.
Yeah.
I don't think it fixes it.
What's weird too? I mean, there's a lot of like weird. Yeah. Now we're gonna go way off topic, but but there's a weird correlation too between the decline of serial killers and the rise of mass shooters.
It's weird.
Yeah, and it's real hard to be a serial killer now.
Dude, too much of a You're right.
Yeah.
Social
And
media
and so
presence.
yeah, it's I don't know if that has anything to.
It's interesting that you do bring up a good point. A serial killer was a guy who did a thing, and you know,
Yeah.
he had like a calling card, and he had all this stuff.
Yeah, and they were kind of chasing the same thing that mass shooters are chasing, and that it was the notoriety. You know,
Variety. I respect the serial killer. It's hard to do.
Let me ask you a question too. Is that something I was talking about with Mitch, and I feel like a lot of like the identity politics and everything. You know, I mean, generally, I think a lot more of us agree on things than we realize. But a lot of it, like there's these big raging talking heads on both sides. You know, but there's nobody that like rages in the middle.
Yeah, and it's not Toby Marishano. Have you had him on your podcast?
Yeah, I've never had him on my podcast, but I have met Toby and I've listened to his. Yeah,
rages in the middle,
and I think there needs to be like more of that. Like, you know, I mean, just angry people in the middle.
We're not interested. It's just not interesting.
And that was my thing. But yeah, you mentioned Toby, I guess, because I was trying to picture what that would look like, and I guess it would look. Yeah, it is a little bit. He's a little bit. He's so funny, man. Yeah. I just think we need more angry people, right, dead center, and I think people would realize.
You're right. Here's the thing, and this is why Toby is a perfect in the middle. And I'm gonna send this to Toby when this comes out.
Sure.
It's because when you're in the middle the right way, like Toby is not a dead centrist, that he was like a left centrist.
Mm-hmm.
Toby Marishano, for those of you listening on the podcast, fantastic comedian, hosts a show called the Unsafe Space. Check
Yes.
out the podcast, dude, it's great. Anyways, when you're in the center, it requires a lot of reading, knowledge. It requires a lot of thoughtfulness.
Mm-hmm.
These are traits that don't line up with anger.
It's true.
And passion.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Because if you're a guy who's red enough to be in the middle, you're pretty calm usually. You're not like, hey, I got passion and fervor. Usually, I think follows or maybe even precedes sort of ignorance.
Yeah. Right.
Fired up. Like, fuck this.
Yeah.
You know. So I don't know. I found myself all over the place. Now I'm just somebody who just has a bunch of unpopular opinions. But at the time in college, I'm a Republican. This is what I do.
Yeah.
Worked in politics. I was a very successful 21-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Was making like $72,000 a year.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Working for a state legislature.
Wow,
working
man.
For a political campaign consulting company.
Holy shit.
Managing campaigns. I worked with Mitt Romney, not directly, but with his campaign.
Whoa.
Congressional ones. And I was fucking miserable.
Really?
I was so sad. I was drinking 6 energy drinks a day.
Oh, God,
I
man.
didn't know what was wrong with me. I went to the doctor. My doctor was like, "You're fucking depressed, dude. You just hate everything."
Oh, my God.
My dad at that time has a heart attack. I remember I'm in the campaign office. My mom calls me, and I ignore the call because I'm like, "Oh, I'm busy." Right? And then she calls me again, and I go, "Okay, I'll get to it in a second." And then finally, I finished doing what I'm doing, and I check my voicemail, and my mom's like, "Ramsey, your dad had a heart attack. Please call."
Holy shit.
And I go, "Oh, like my heart just fucking sinks." I'm like, "What is?" So I call, no one's picking up. I call, no one's picking up. I floor it. I'm driving home, and I'm literally going like 122 miles an hour.
Jesus.
I don't know what's going on. Finally, I get a hold of them. They're like, "Here's where we're at," and I go there, and they're like, "Yeah, your dad had a massive heart attack. He's okay, but here's the situation. He almost died. 99% blockage. Blah 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 blah."
Whoa.
So that happens, and I sort of couple up these things of like, I hate that. I hate what I'm doing. I also have now really had my first brush with mortality. I didn't really know. My parents immigrated here in the 70s, and we don't have any family here at all. We still don't have any family here.
Wow.
So when you're really disconnected from family and everybody, you just you don't really brush with death too often.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a side note to that. I've always felt that was always like grandparents' greatest lesson.
Yes.
You know, is your grandparents tend to, not always, but tend to die when you're younger.
And they teach you how to deal with that.
Exactly. You know, I mean, when you're 12 and your grandma dies, that's a life lesson that you learn. You know, and that's a coping mechanism.
So my parents showed up with three of the grandparents dead. I was born with three of them dead.
Oh wow.
One died when my mom was young, and then my dad's parents both died within a year of each other before I was born.
Wow.
So my dad was that first brush of death. We didn't have family friends. We didn't have uncle, like nobody.
Yeah.
And so I sat there. I was fucking So if I was depressed before that sunk me so low. Because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm now figuring out life is short. I don't know what the hell to do. And so, you know, at that time, I'm doing nothing. I've quit my jobs. I'm listening to podcasts. I just start listening to podcasts because it's like I just found out about them.
Yeah.
So I'm listening to podcasts. This was, you know, good almost 10 years ago. So I'm listening to podcasts, and then I hear about these comedians telling these stories about the first time they went up and how they bombed, and now I'm learning. Oh, I was supposed to bomb. I didn't know that you were supposed to bomb.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It's and that's sometimes it's better to bomb early too. You know,
the worst thing that can happen to you is you kill for 2 years immediately.
Yeah, and you don't know how to deal. Like when the bombing comes, I've seen people spin out hard. Like, you know, I was like, dude, you only bombed one time.
Robin Tran was like that.
Oh, really?
I saw her in the very beginning when she was Robert. But people tell me that Robin. Have you guys ever had Robin up here?
No.
You guys. I mean, I hate telling people you should, but she's somebody who's a real killer and very interesting.
I wasn't sure what to make of her because, you know, she's got a real, you know, like her social media presence. Is so. And then I heard her on some podcast, and I was like, oh, she's great. Like she's
so funny. She's so thoughtful.
Yeah.
She just, I think, went through a period where she was really angry.
Yeah.
Post the transition and kind of having these constant attacks on her.
Oh, sure.
Not her personally, but just hearing. You know, when you're just coming out as transgender, and then you're also now dealing with these people who are like being like, no, fuck trans. They're also just finding out what transgender is.
Yeah, right. Sure.
Great. But Robin was like that. She spent 2 years just murdering, and I think she hit a wall where she stopped, and it fucked with her. This is, you know, back when she was him.
Yeah, right.
A little confusing with the story.
Sure.
Yeah. So, anyways, I hear these stories, and I go, okay, all right, okay, these guys are bombing. Maybe after some real careful consideration, I realized, I don't like politics. I like Jon Stewart. Comedy.
All right, you kind of like fooled yourself. Or you at least got the wrong takeaway initially. Yeah.
Because again, I just couldn't accept this idea that you could just be a comedian.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just showing up to an open mic and starting. And that's funny too, because podcasting had a lot to do with me getting into. Because I had similarly had like a. It wasn't like a full-blown nervous breakdown, but it was one of those things where I recognized that I was starting to have one, and I was just really miserable at this job. So I quit, and I didn't know what I was going to do. But in the meantime, I was just listening to like the Bert Kreischer podcast and the Tom Segura podcast and the Ari Shaffir podcast, and you know, and then Rogan, and I was like, oh, like I feel like I'm connecting, and like again too, it was the stories they would tell about comedy. And yeah, it had a lot to do with me getting into comedy. It's like I think comedians are my tribe, you know. Like
very shortly, you go, oh yeah, this whole time I thought I just wasn't fitting in with people. Turns out I was just trying to fit in with the wrong people.
Yeah,
the guys who I'm fitting in with.
Yeah, right.
Talking about these things and being so dark and weird about their you know shortcomings as humans.
Yeah, and this thing's getting all acting up on us again. Sorry about that. It was doing so well. I think I just need to like stop touching the table. I think that's what it is. And there's like I really like the shared experience of being a comedian. I mean, it's such an intense thing to go through, and it's something that like you can meet any comedian anywhere in the country, and you can usually develop a pretty strong bond fairly quickly, unless they're a complete asshole, you know. I mean, but yeah, it's great.
Do you remember when before you were a comedian, how you would hear comics that you hated and that were famous, and you'd go, "That guy sucks. I hate that."
Yeah.
And now, after you become a comedian, even if you hate the person's comedy, but that they have any modicum of success, you have no choice but to be like, man, I respect that.
Dude, you know who I feel? I feel like that with Steve Harvey. Like Steve
Harvey, that's so funny.
I don't like his opinions on anything, but the guy is so undeniably killer. Like, I mean, if you look at some of his old stuff from the Kings of Comedy tour and stuff, he's a goddamn murderer. You know,
I have no idea how I feel about it. Steve Harvey and James Comey are two people where I'm not sure how I'm supposed to feel about these guys.
He's just got some really wacky opinions on religion and stuff. So
Steve Harvey, 1 second he's being funny on national television, and the next second he's dangling an intern outside of a window.
Yeah, he's
wrinkling his suit.
He's just such a weird kind of dynamic guy, but God, he's just a fucking showman, man, and it's amazing.
I think you're totally right.
Anyway, where do we leave off on all that?
I know. Before we got on to Steve Harvey, I hear these podcasts, and then I go for them. I go for it. The first thing I do is I'm a huge Adam Carolla fan.
Yeah.
First thing I heard him say was he was talking about going to the Groundlings.
Okay.
Which is an improv school.
Oh yeah, okay. I'm vaguely familiar, but
it's like a second city or whatever. Groundlings. So I go there first, and I do a bunch of improv classes.
Oh, cool. Which
is, to this day, people always make fun of improv or whatever, but I'm relatively quick on my feet, quicker than a lot of comics.
Yeah.
When they're on stage, and I owe it all to those courses. And kind of getting in there early. Did a few of those classes. Then I rolled up to an open mic at Max Bloom's first time. Where I saw at the time Connor McSpadden, then host of the Max Bloom's open mic.
I really like how that open mic has been passed down.
Then host Connor's got a sty in his eye at the time.
Oh, funny!
And he's got an eye patch on.
I recently heard an eye patch story. Yeah, that's so funny.
Bombing. I get that. Right? So I watched Connor bomb for 5 minutes, and I go, I can do this. Which is so funny because Connor's one of the best comics.
He's so funny. Yeah.
But at that time, not knowing anything, just watching him bomb, being like, okay, I think I can handle comedy.
Yeah, right. And he was 13 at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
So young.
So I fucking did it from then on, and then it's been nonstop ever since 2014.
Oh, that's when you started?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude. Yeah. That's great, man.
So things have been great.
I always think about you when I'm thinking about because you have you got to headlining pretty quick, and so I'm like, oh, I always in the back of my mind, I'm always I want to be on that Ramsey Badawi pace,
thank you so much.
4 years to headliner, and
I'll tell you what the key is. It's to constantly accept gigs that you're not ready for.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
They all got me there. That's the only thing. And by the way, I think that I think I can do well in a headlining slot on a lot of stuff, but I don't have that hour that
sure.
really kind of separates the boys from the
that super polished act. The act is totally.
I got 35 minutes that I like, and then the rest of it is just fucking magic that happens.
Sure.
If I'm lucky, or it sometimes goes the other way.
Yeah, right.
I think you saw me in Costa Mesa that when I was bombing. I just had this
Yeah, that crowd didn't like riffing. They were not
like riffing. And that's how I can get a crowd on my side usually.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of Saddam Hussein material. It's tough if I can't get you on that side.
Yeah, they were. I dicked around a little bit at the beginning. I was like, oh no, I'm doing material. I'm clinging to material like a fucking life preserver. And I ended up doing all right, but yeah, they didn't want anything off the cuff. They were so cool.
So that's so thank you. I appreciate the kind words. Very nice.
Yeah.
I've been now at this for 4 years. 5 years.
Yeah.
And hopefully I can retire soon.
Yeah, that's the goal. Just be done with comedy. All right, I guess we should talk dads. That's the whole point of this. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, and
I didn't even realize, to be honest with you, until I was telling the story, how big of a role my father has in me showing up to comedy.
Oh, that's great, man.
I didn't realize until talking to you. Right now, that heart attack story, all that stuff.
Holy shit.
That's all my dad.
Wow, dude. Yeah. That's Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And so now your dad's from Palestine. Your whole family's from Palestine.
Whole family, mom, dad, Palestine, small village right outside of Jerusalem.
No shit.
Yeah, called Jenin.
Do you were you born there too, or were you born in the United States?
I was born in Long Beach, California, but I spent when I was a kid, my parents would go up until I was 16. I would spend almost every summer in Palestine.
No shit.
Yeah.
So
I would leave for like 4 months.
You say you're like real familiar with the culture.
Very
then.
familiar with the culture. You could drop me off there, and I know where like certain places. I could be like, oh yeah, this is where you get coffee. That's where you.
Yeah.
Dude, and I used to go to the computer cafe when I was there 16, and they would be like,
how funny.
They would, because literally it was in just like the side of a building that was like bombed at one point. So
what?
Smoking. It was just like it was a building that was bombed and never stopped being on fire. For like 20 years. It just stayed on fire.
Oh, that's funny. And like, now this is, I guess, reverting back to what we were talking about earlier, but like, how did you reconcile some of the like the pro-Israel stuff that comes with being a Republican with your background like that?
I never did. And I never did it. I ignored it. I thought to myself, okay, some people are anti-gay and Republican. Some people are pro-gay and Republican.
Sure.
So I was one of these people who was like, I'm anti-Israel in the sense that I think, my feeling about it, and not that it matters too much, but it's more of like, I'm pro two-state solution. I think it exists, but I think the Israeli government is really hawkish on the Palestinian people. But my feeling was always like, that's how I feel. It's like, I'm anti-Israel to the extent that I think they should back the fuck off the Palestinians, but you can't be a single issue, whatever.
Sure.
Now, I would say the Israel thing probably keeps me the most away from the Republic.
Oh, interesting.
Because I just need some honesty on the scenario. Where it's like, plenty of Hamas dudes. Whenever I hear people talk about two-state solutions, they're always quick to be like, "Yep, Hamas, the Palestinians are being terrorists." Nobody ever on the Republican side ever wants to be like, "Yeah, but the Israeli government did kill 22 people the other day just for protesting and just killed them in cold blood."
Yeah.
So it's like things like that where you're like, it's a genocide, man. They're killing a lot of Palestinians for no fucking reason.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah.
And so whenabouts did your folks come over to the United States?
Came here in 1979. He came here to go to college.
Okay.
He got accepted to a college in Aberdeen, Texas called the University of Hardin-Simmons, which was a Christian college.
Okay. Wow, interesting. You're very, very Muslim.
He tells me this great story, and I love it so much. It's one of my favorite things because I come here, right, and it's 1979. Having a great time. I don't know anything, and it's October, and I had never seen Halloween before. I don't know what the fuck Halloween is. I don't even like. You have to understand, we don't have internet. We don't have this. I've never even seen Halloween on TV.
Yeah.
So I'm coming up to my dorm room. It's late at night. All the lights are off. And I'm like, I can't see anything. I don't know what's going on. Is there a power outage? So I get to the room and some guy pops out to scare me. And I just beat the shit. I just go full tapping, punching him in the face as I can.
Jesus.
I'm just like going crazy because I think this guy's going to mug me.
Yeah, right.
And the guy's like, no, it's Halloween. And he goes like, I just literally had no idea.
This guy's in, it's like John Travolta.
Yeah. I used to do this joke on stage, and I used to say, now it didn't help that the guy was dressed as an Israeli soldier.
That's funny.
So he's just culture shock.
Yeah, no doubt.
Mother and father get married in kind of an arranged marriage. It's not really arranged. Arab Muslims do a thing where it's not quite arranged, but it kind of is. It's like quasi, where it's like, hey, you have a daughter who's about my son's age. We should have them go out for a few dates.
Sure.
And if they like each other and they're into it, they can get married. It's arranged dating.
I was gonna say, I have a buddy who he's Indian, and his parents still do that for him. Yeah. He's like, it's kind of nice. He's like, my mom is she is a studious, she knows how to pick them, and I was like, it's a little creepy, but that's cool, man. Like,
I reached a point where I'm like, you know what, whatever.
Let's have them do the legwork.
My mom gets a bunch of Facebook requests from women who are like, hey, my daughter, I saw your son on Facebook. He's very handsome. Like, my daughter is really, here's a picture of her. Like, do you think they might be interested in getting, like, my mom's like, you could do like a fucking Bachelor.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I mean, if nothing else, it just feels an ego thing, you know?
It's very flattering.
And so your dad, and what was he studying when he came over?
Accounting. Yeah, so he was doing accounting. His dad died. He lost any opportunity for funding. Started having to work jobs to fund his schooling. Mm-hmm. And then he eventually just got so exhausted working night shifts and morning school. Yeah. He just dropped out of college and he worked full time. And then he eventually met a woman, a white woman. He came out to California, to pursue some opportunities. Met this white woman, married her, got his citizenship. The old-fashioned way.
Wow, are you being for reals right now?
Yeah.
Wow, and that's how he got his citizenship.
That's how he did it before back.
Wow,
in the day,
was that the plan or was it an accident?
I think it was a little bit of both. I think the kid was an accident. The kid who ended up becoming my older brother, who I didn't know was half not my brother until I was 17.
Really? Oh, so you have a relationship with this? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This dude is a guy who was, and there's a lot of drama in sort of everything. Like, he was born, and then there was a big custody battle. The mother kidnapped him and took him to Arkansas.
Holy shit!
My dad and the police had to follow her, and it was this crazy story.
Wow.
Drug addict mother.
Wow.
So at the end of this whole thing, my dad is now a U.S. citizen. He's got a 3-year-old kid and a white kid. My brother looks white as shit.
Oh, that's so funny.
And now he's got my mother who's interested in marrying him. My dad flies back, meets my mom. They go out a couple times, sort of in a casual sense. Yeah. They like each other. My mom's keen on the idea of moving to America. Mm-hmm. It happens. They come back to America, and as they're coming in, they ask, because at that time the sort of State Department was of course privy to the idea of what was going on in terms of people getting married here and keeping their citizenship. Yeah. So they've got to pretend that my mom is my dad's cousin and she's here just to visit.
Oh, how funny.
So they come in and they've coached up my older brother to be like, if anybody asks, this is not your new mommy, this is your auntie. Uh-huh. And so my older brother at the time, I guess they asked my mom, they asked my dad what the relationship is, and they're a little skeptical, and I guess my older brother is the saving grace, walks up and just goes, that's my auntie or whatever.
Yes.
And they go okay, this sounds checks out.
Yes.
He doesn't seem like he has any idea.
Oh, that's great.
Little did they know my brother was going to grow up to be a manipulative con artist.
Oh, really?
That was his
his
man. Formative training.
What kind of work does he do? Or is he?
He's in Indiana now, just smoking OxyContin out of a straw.
Oh, that's a bummer.
He's a mess. But
that sucks.
He was always just constantly car salesman, cell phone salesman, just these industries of people who stand in your kiosks.
That's it's not my original thought, but it's the closest thing you get to real life pop-ups. Yes. Like on the internet, these people just you want to smell this and spritz you up. Yeah,
that was my dad's or my older brother's gigs were just human pop-ups for
So they're back in the United States. They've got now, and then did they get married immediately?
They got married pretty quickly.
Did they
get married? I think within a few months.
Okay, so he's got a new wife. He's got a 3-year-old son. Yep. And what's he doing?
At this time, he owns a bar in Long Beach. This is an interesting thing. My dad, who is a Muslim and a religious one, doesn't really cling to the religion super hard.
Okay.
I say religious. I guess let me define some things, because I guess people will be confused if they're he's religious but doesn't. He believes in the religion fully. He doesn't have any doubt in his mind that Islam is the real religion. But he isn't good. He was self-admittedly I'm not following the religion properly. Yeah. I occasionally have a drink. I'm selling I'm selling alcohol, which is forbidden in Islam.
Wow.
I have a bar. It's called the Twilight Zone.
Wow. Okay.
Bar.
Okay.
It's hilarious. So he's at this bar. He's doing this thing, and he starts to kind of have this realization that he's not really following the religion the right way. he then he's got his eye on moving careers.
Sure.
Within a year of my mom being here, she's pregnant with me. I'm born. We're in Long Beach, Section 8 housing, just not a great living situation.
Right.
And he realizes he's going to try some other stuff, and he has friends who work in the dump truck business where they...
Interesting.
Yeah, they basically they have these dump trucks and they haul debris to and from construction sites.
Okay. Yeah.
My dad does it. He kind of trials it out, makes $20-$30 an hour, kind of goes, okay, it's a good gig.
Yeah.
In the 80s. So
that's insane money back then. Yeah.
And realizes that if he buys his own truck, he ends up doubling his pay, tripling his pay. So he gets into that business, sells the bar, buys a truck, and has never looked back. He's been doing that for 30 years.
Really? So he's like a dump truck of
blue collar dump truck.
Wow, man. I think the bar in Long Beach is kind of cool. Did he just stumble it? Like, was it just an opportunity that presented itself?
That's a very good question.
Yeah.
It's something that I feel like I've never found out from my dad because he's very ashamed of it.
Is he? Oh, I guess, yeah, that makes sense.
He really, my dad has a philosophy, which is, if I don't talk about it, then none of you will ever follow suit.
Huh.
Whereas I think a good dad, my dad's a good dad, but he's not an enlightened dad. That's
sure.
the word.
Okay.
That's probably the theme of your podcast.
Yeah.
A lot of good dads, they're just not enlightened.
The phrase that has just kind of bubbled up organically that seems to apply to these types of situations is well-intentioned but ill-equipped.
There you go. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think if I could, and this is so funny, I have no advice for you as a father. But the one thing that I would be like, hey, if I could, it's like, be sure to talk about your mistakes, and why they were mistakes, and then from there, you guys can have a real relationship about stuff. Because if my dad had just stopped me at some point and just been like, yeah, you know what, man, I just was, I got caught up. I wanted to make money more than I wanted to be true to who I am.
Right.
I think that's a super cool thing for a kid to hear.
Yeah.
To go like, oh, so you're saying like money's not that important because you will feel bad about yourself.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So he never talks to me about why he got into it, why he, what he did while he was there. He just kind of has these vague stories about, and I've seen pictures. Like I didn't know until I saw pictures of him behind the bar.
Yeah.
This fucking 70s stash.
Wow.
Wearing these tinted, hide from that 70s.
It sounds fucking cool. Like, that's great. And so, I mean, that was actually kind of like the next bit of questions I had for you was like, your relationship with him growing up. I mean, was he just kind of the stereotypical like stern immigrant dad?
Very stern, quick on physical and emotional and abuse. Not because he was like, hey, I used to do a joke about how my dad was never like an alcoholic, abusive dad.
Yeah.
Of these stories or whatever. My dad was Muslim, so he was sober when he was abusing me, and I'm kind of jealous.
That hurts. Yeah.
I sort of wish he had an excuse to be a little bit more, but it's just transmitted, right?
Yeah.
My dad abused me, his dad abused him. And so he thinks he was very quick on like the only way to get good behavior of somebody is to like be physically abusive when you have to, and sort of constantly be shaming and whatever. That's the only way to motivate.
That's rough, man.
So I had a I would say a cordial relationship with my father, but it was still I was still based primarily in fear. Everything I did between ages 10 to 25 was all about like I'm afraid of him.
Wow.
So I don't want to do.
That's heavy. Have you ever talked to him about that? Have you guys ever had any conversations about that? Yeah.
Never have.
It's okay.
We're now at a point. I think we'll get there.
Sure.
I think now my dad is now almost 70 and he's very sensitive.
Yeah.
He's got to be.
Dude. Yeah, my dad is the same way. Like my dad was born in 50.
Yep. Same age.
And I think there's a weird. You get to an age where you start getting real sentimental about stuff. Dude, he sent me a text message the other day that made me fucking cry. Like, it was...
Yeah, what did it say?
It was... I actually, on last week's episode, I read it, and then I cried on the podcast. But, no, it was just... if I haven't said it recently, I love ya. And the thing that got me, though, was he was like... I wish I were more like you when I was your age.
Wow, that's great.
And like that's like right. It was like because I've spent my whole life trying to be like him, you know, and like it was just and so I think it's that you get
to an age where they just I think your testosterone is out of you. You get some time to think.
Yeah.
And you realize some stuff. And so my dad now and I, me and him have a much better relationship.
Yeah.
It's not perfect because I can't be open with my father about the things that I think, which are, I'm not a Muslim. I mean, I was raised Muslim, but I don't have I don't believe in God. That's something that would be very upsetting to my father.
Yeah.
I don't know what would happen. He might be inclined to disown me.
Ooh.
Because, and I don't know if it's true. I don't think he would.
Yeah.
But I feel like emotionally, I think he would.
Maybe 10 years ago or 15 years ago. But no, he might be a little more chill about it now.
But I still have it deep in my brain that he wouldn't be chill.
Sure. Yeah.
My father's older brother was somebody who he hates with all of his heart.
Wow.
Because he repeatedly like just did terrible things. My dad has, these horrible stories about being like, we were 17. We were looking for work. We were living in Kuwait. We had been on a bus. We were like homeless, basically. We were just trying to find opportunities. We couldn't go back to Palestine because there was a blockade and all this other stuff. And we found my oldest brother. His name is Yasser, and we were like, we were pounding. We kind of got to his house, and he wouldn't feed us. He wouldn't let us shower. Like we'd stunk. Like he treated us like shit. He ultimately was a guy who one of the things about him was he was an open atheist. My family hated him for it. He got into tons of these fights. He would make my grandmother's life hell. My grandmother hated him, not even because of the atheism, but it was just part of who he was.
Sure. Right? Yeah. It was just one of those baked-in things
It was a baked-in thing. So it was like she hated him because he would get in arguments with her. He would make her so upset. He would yell things at her like, "If God is real, like let him break my arm right now. Well, break my fucking arm." Like he was like, they had these crazy intense shouting matches at this old my grandmother, by all accounts of everyone who ever knew her, was like the sweetest old woman.
Yeah.
Who just was constantly feeding stray animals, and baking things and taking in homeless children.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, she sounds great.
So when she died, to the point she had such a contentious relationship with that brother, he came in to see her on her deathbed, and she actually turned her head and said, "I don't want to see you."
Whoa!
And she died with that.
Holy shit!
With that intention, she didn't look at him.
Yeah.
Anytime he was in the room, she just turned her head. So my dad, I think, associates atheism and lack of belief in God with him.
Right.
So I think he's particularly sensitive.
Yeah, that's rough.
Never broach that subject.
Yeah.
So there are some things where me and my dad cannot ever have a conversation about. But we're much closer now. We're very open with our sort of feelings of being being like, "Hey man, I respect what you did for me.
Yeah.
I know you fucking love me. I know you took care of me and the family. I know it wasn't easy.
Yeah, man.
I have a tough time moving across town. You moved across the world with no internet, with no nothing.
Yeah.
And you really wanted to have a good life for us.
Yeah.
You fucking tried, and you I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And he's very much on the flip end, being like, "Listen, man, you're gonna be successful at whatever you do. You're a fucking smart kid.
Holy
you're
shit.
Best. You're the only kid I'm proud of."
That's shit. And do you have any other siblings?
Two. I have one older, one younger.
Oh, okay, so you're in the
My
middle.
older brother's not a bad kid. My dad's just not necessarily super proud of him because he's a sweet kid, not wildly ambitious. Back to my parents. My parents spoiled the shit out of him. He got a lot of privileges and a lot of sort of things that we didn't get.
Do you feel like you're the most like your dad?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I'm a nice 50-50 split on my mom and my dad.
Oh, okay.
I think my humor really comes from my mom's side of the family, but I think I have a sternness and a sort of an intensity that I associate only with my father. And that intensity, I think, is something that I can use for great success and great evil.
And you're a hard worker, man. I mean,
totally.
Yeah, I mean, you still got a full-time job, and you're doing comedy practically full-time. Yeah.
I'm very hardworking.
Yeah. And so I mean that's great. But I mean, and so he didn't have any like real hang-ups about the comedy thing.
No, not at all, because he didn't quite understand it.
Oh, interesting.
And I think my dad, when you don't understand comedy, you might think if my kid told me he wanted to be a comedian, I would have more hang-ups about it than my father. Not even because of like hating comedy or whatever. I love comedy, it's the best. But I actually know what it involves.
Sure.
Whereas my dad literally was just like, look, my dad once a month has this conversation with me where he's like, have you ever thought about just writing a movie? Like, that seems to be... He has the talk... It's so funny.
That's all it takes. You just got to write it. That's all you got to do.
Most brown dads want their children to be engineers. My dad wants me to be Sylvester Stallone. He's constantly being like, look, Sylvester Stallone wrote Rocky, and he refused to not be in it.
Yeah.
You gotta do that.
Yeah, thanks, Dad. Yeah. And I guess there is... because he's also not wrong in that just do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You hate when people are technically right, but you don't know why.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely something to be gleaned from just, nose to the grindstone. Don't make any excuses for it. I have heard you've had some really funny, on the Mean Boys podcast, some really funny conversations with your dad on there. I mean, it seems like you both have like the wacky unpopular opinions.
We love it.
So
I used to run away when I first started comedy. I ran away from the wacky unpopular opinions because I was scared.
Yeah.
And I realized through my father, wow, I'm really realizing a lot on this podcast by watching him. His wacky unpopular opinions are what really make me love him.
Yeah, right.
And I think the same is true for my friends to me, where they go, I actually really like how weird and sometimes, and you saw me, I'm doing a big chunk about this, how sometimes you have a very unpopular opinion and then you have a perfect argument for it.
Yeah.
And it's so fucking funny.
Yeah.
That's how my dad is. I mean, I'm doing this bit about how my dad doesn't believe in depression because he doesn't believe in happiness. What a brilliant...
That is a brilliant idea. Yeah.
Brilliant beyond all means. And I realized that's what makes him funny, and that's what makes me funny.
Yeah, right.
Is thinking that way.
And kind of what's really interesting about how good that joke is in a lot of ways, that joke is great, and it's my favorite bit you're doing right now. But in a lot of ways, it is the mature version of that first joke you told.
Yeah.
Which is the whole just because I flip hamburgers thing, like, doesn't mean.
Wow, you're so right.
It's really neat to
You're so right. And it's something I was telling you about just Friday night because I was just sort of had been driving all day and thinking about this stuff all day. Is there are only 4 jokes on the planet. We all have heard every joke.
Yeah.
There's really not that many.
Yeah.
I think what makes stand-up comedians stand out and be exceptionally funny is when they take those 4 jokes and they plug themselves directly into it.
Yeah.
And that dad doesn't believe in depression joke is me plugging myself directly into the MTV True Love.
Yeah, right.
And being like, this is actually me and this is actually what happened. And audiences, I think, will laugh at it because I think they all do 2 things. There's the thing where they go, this is funny, I can tell how real it is based on the specifics. And the other part of it is they go, that's how my dad is.
Yeah.
We all think our dads are the only ones who don't believe in depression, when in reality,
man,
a very overwhelming majority of
it's tough when again, it's something I've talked about on this podcast before too, but when you get to the age where you realize your parents are just people. Oh man, just as scared and vulnerable and unsure of themselves, and that's always a tough pill to swallow because I think because you realize it doesn't really ever get better. I think we're when you're younger, you think you're going to hit this plateau of enlightenment, we're like, okay, I've got it figured out, but no, I just worry about different things.
You have to keep pursuing enlightenment.
Yeah.
Because that's the problem that I think a lot of our parents have is that they hit a point, and I don't blame them because I have kids. You're you got to sink into doing a lot of things.
Yeah.
So you don't have a ton of time to be like, let me open up a book and really kind of see how I feel.
Yeah.
About things.
Right. Yeah. What does the Buddha have to say about this? Yeah. No. Yeah. I gotta go microwave some chicken nuggets.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's 8:30. Yeah.
As great as SpongeBob is, I'm fucking,
Absolutely.
I gotta pay attention. I gotta play Legos. I actually have a lot of friends who tell me that they have children and they smoke pot because it helps them get down and play with their kids.
Yeah, I mean, I respect that. Like sometimes I go back and forth on that. Like maybe I'm not like rolling around on the floor like playing with Legos enough with her. But then I was like, my dad never did that with me. You know?
But is that a great excuse to not?
I don't know. I mean, I think there's something to be said about imagination too. Like I don't want to be the crutch for her imagination. You know? And because like I don't know. I just remember. Action figures, just playing out scenes with my action figures by myself in my room for hours.
I think you're right about that. There is something to having a kid who is, I think being a kid and having some solitude. There's value to it.
Yeah.
Kind of like, all right, like it's up to me to have a good time.
Yeah.
What am I going to do with it?
Yeah, and sometimes I have to tell her that too. I'm like, she'll be like, I don't know what I want to do. I'm like, that's perfect.
Yeah, this is where we're really gonna.
Yeah, I'm not gonna intervene at all. What are you gonna do?
Pushing her in any direction?
Not really. I mean, her mom puts her in like softball, so she does that. I try to like facilitate her interests as they develop like organically. I mean, like she's really into. She's really into like graphic novels. There's a whole bunch of like little kid like graphic novels out right now, and
I love that.
Yeah, and so kind of that, and she really enjoys reading those, and so yeah,
I love whenever I hear a little kid enjoys reading. You hang on.
Yeah. She was
fucked as an adult. If you're
totally, yeah, absolutely.
All of life is just reading. Just so you know. It's just reading.
I remember being a kid, like I can vaguely remember not being able to read. As a kid, and I thought like reading was like something you could just turn on and off. Like I could just I don't know what that billboard says, and then you turn on your reading button, and then you're like, I can read it now.
Totally.
That's a total non sequitur thing.
No, reading is, dude. My mom, man. See, back to me thinking about my parents having such a big influence on me. Oh my god, dude. My mom. I will say this. I'm comfortable saying this. I'm a smart dude.
Yeah.
I'm in the, like, of all my friends, I'm always one of the smarter guys hanging out.
Yeah.
Not brilliant. I'm not like a genius. I'm sharp.
Yeah.
I owe it to my mother. I owe it to my mother 100% because when I was a kid, every day my mom would make me crack open a book and read it to her.
Oh, wow.
And they were awful books. And my mom would have to pretend she gave a shit. Like Tony and his pizza place or whatever. I just realized how fucking hard that must be.
Yeah, just for her to pretend to be interested for your sake.
And so they opened their own pizza place. Very cool. And I was sitting there being like, can you fucking believe it? I was like losing my mind. I didn't even like reading.
Yeah.
I would be there, I'd show up, I'd do the work. She would show up and pretend. Like my mom would literally treat, kids read to their, or parents read to their kids. My mom would literally be like, hey, okay, it's 8:30, come read to me. I'd like
That's fucking cool.
Story.
Yeah.
And so I would have to be like, all right, my mom. In my head, I was like, my mom's fucking retarded. She can't read, so she needs. She needs me. She's out of her mind.
That's funny. Yeah,
I can't go to bed unless I read her Go Dog Go. Let's do it. I'm like just rubbing my head like I have a job. Okay. But that's the thing that was important to me.
Yeah.
So now I'm like a smart dude because I'm very intelligent because of those moments.
Yeah. Oh, how funny. That's one of the things my dad did. I remember we had this like long road trip, and I don't know, my brother and I were like maybe like 9 and 10, and I remember having the idea. I was like, to pass the time, let's just tell stories, and my dad sat through like some bullshit. I don't know, maybe we were younger than that too, like 7 and 8, and just these dumb stories that my brother and I were telling. And my dad was like, all right, stop. He's like, I'm going to tell you guys a story. And he told this, like, he told this insane story. Like, I mean, there were like wizards, and there was a dragon, and like there was like battles and stuff.
Oh, like he told you a real ass story.
Yeah, and then I was like totally enthralled by this story my dad was just coming up with off the top of his head. But then many years later, I read The Hobbit, and he's just reciting The Hobbit, and
that is so funny.
But it was still like this kind of this whimsical nature about reading that my parents instilled in me very early on. You know,
that kind of stuff is important. So when you tell me your daughter is reading and you're like, you know, kind of pushing and encouraging it, like,
yeah, trying to facilitate it. Well, cool. We've been going. Yeah, we hit the mark, man. That was great, dude. I had so much fun talking to you.
Dude, I literally I'm pumped. I'm like, I'm gonna leave here and just like write.
Yeah.
I took a lot of ideas that I thought about while talking. I'm gonna listen to this again.
Yeah, for sure. I'll probably put it up in a couple weeks. I'll give you a heads up and I'll tag you in it and stuff.
I'd love to hear it.
Shamelessly plug your stuff, man.
Go follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Ramsbad. If you're in the Los Angeles area, I'm doing a live. Now is not the time, so stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
The dates are undetermined, but we're trying to film it so that we can turn it into a TV show.
Yeah, dude. We'll get you up here to do a live one of those too. Danny and I still really want to do that. I know we've talked about it.
I think you guys will go nuts.
Yeah, we need to. We have a couple of things like I'd like to build you like a little. I'd like to do it in the Chicos. I'd like to build you like a riser long enough though for like a long table.
I would love to have you, Danny, on the show.
That'll be fun.
We'll have a great time. Bring me up. It'll be a great time.
Yeah, man.
In the meantime, just do those things, and then what else do I got? Subscribe to the Mean Boys podcast.
Yeah,
they're my friends.
Yeah.
I'm an unofficial Mean Boy.
I told you last night. You and Tom Goss are like way up on my list of dads that I wanted to talk about. So
You picked the right guy.
yeah, absolutely. Cool. Thanks so much, Ramsey.
See you, buddy.
And we're back. Hi, I missed you. Did you think about me? You probably were because I was talking. Glad you're back. Guys, that was Ramsey Badawi. Follow him on all the social medias. His Twitter account is fire. It's so good. And Facebook and Instagram and all that fun stuff. Usually his Instagram stories are pretty fun too. And listen to the Mean Boys podcast. It's those guys are good buddies and real funny, and it's one of my favorite podcasts out there. And the whole podcast is a big inspiration for me and what I do. So, or their whole podcast. So, thanks for sticking that out, guys. I know the audio got real, at times, but you're good people, and I love you, and I care about you. So, I'll be back next week with a real funny episode with Mr. Matt Cole. Matt Cole is a ton of fun. You're going to love him to death. I know I do. And I will see you guys real soon. Thanks.